Good evening, everyone. We're here for City Council meeting, and it is Monday, December 17th, 2018, and we'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Solomon, Modrick, Nordstrom, Drew, Scott, Drury, Laurenti, Roberts, Armstrong, Lewis. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And now, in lieu of tonight's invocation, we'll go to Councilwoman Darla Drew for an introduction.
Yes, I'd like to welcome up A Cappella Showcase. This is part of the choir. It's actually quite large. 30 members? 25? And this is one of the singing groups that's also supported by the Rapid City Arts Subsidy. And for Christmas, it's a nice change. Instead of an invocation, to have a nice Christmas-type song. So Judy Vidal, I called her this morning because I got my wires crossed with DCU, and she has graciously decided to be here. So thank you, Judy. Take it away.
Thank you. That was very nice. Now would you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's time for the adoption of the agenda. The council can vote on the agenda as written or make modifications to it at this time.
Second.
Motion to adopt by Solomon, second by Drury. All in favor of adoption of this agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now I'd like to call on Fire Chief Rod Seals to approach the podium for an award.
Good evening. I come before you tonight to recognize a couple individuals from our community that did something amazing here. I'd like to read from the nomination for Civilian Award of Recognition for a Life-Saving Citation that was written by Lieutenant Jim Bussell with our department. I'm writing to you on behalf of the members of the Rapid City Fire Department to recommend 2 individuals for the civilian life-saving citations for their actions during a recent fire here in Rapid City. At 6:30 a.m. on November 9th, a fire was reported at 2021 Cherry Avenue. The fire was in an 8-unit apartment building. Pennington County 911 received multiple calls reporting the fire and reporting that individuals were trapped. Among the initial callers were Gene Witkowski and Jim McClendon, both from a Collins sighting. The pair saw the fire and called 911. Recognizing that the occupant of one apartment, Miss Patricia Mackey, was trapped on the deck of her apartment, the pair sprung into action. Mr. McClendon ran to a nearby vehicle and retrieved a ladder. The pair positioned the ladder against the deck where Miss Mackey was trapped. Intense heat and heavy smoke began to buffet the deck, and it would be a few short moments before the deck itself was involved in fire. Mr. Witkowski climbed the ladder to rescue Miss Mackey from the impending fire. With Miss Mackey on his back, Mr. Witkowski climbed down the ladder to safety just as firefighters from the Rapid City Fire Department arrived. The heroic actions of these gentlemen did not stop even after firefighters and law enforcement arrived on scene. At the time of the fire, temperatures were in the single digits to the low teens, with wind chills approaching 0 and light snow falling. 8 occupants of the apartment found themselves suddenly displaced with little more than the clothes on their backs. Mr. Witkowski and Mr. McClendon helped rescue the occupants of the building. This time, however, they rescued them from the cold. The employees of Collins Siding opened their doors to the victims of the fire. They provided warmth, comfort, and warm drinks and snacks. Throughout the duration of the incident, Collins Siding supported firefighters and first responders by providing coffee and snacks, rooms and space for investigators to conduct interviews, and a base for members of the American Red Cross to begin to help the victims of the fire with immediate needs and support. These actions proved to be invaluable and ensured that the emotional needs as well as the immediate physical needs of the fire victims could be addressed. On behalf of the members of the Rapid City Fire Department, I respectfully submit Mr. Witkowski and Mr. McClendon for the civilian life-saving citation. According to Rapid City Fire Department Standard Operating Procedure 1012, criteria for the award includes the following: awarded to a civilian who saves a life by direct action and need not be performed under conditions requiring bravery or exposure to danger. According to eyewitness statements, the statement of Miss Mackey and video captured by Collins Siding security cameras, the rescue of Miss Mackey was performed under great duress and certainly exposed Mr. McClendon and Mr. Witkowski to a great deal of danger. It is the opinion of the firefighters on scene that day and myself that both gentlemen are more than deserving of this recognition. We hope that you will agree. So I'd like to ask Mr. Witkowski and Mr. McClendon, as well as Patricia, to come up and join us for these awards. So it's my honor, on behalf of the Rapid City Fire Department, to give these life-saving citations to both Mr. Gene Witkowski and Mr. Jim McClendon. They're awarded for life-saving actions performed on November 9th, 2018 during a residential structure fire. Because of this quick thinking and bravery in the face of serious danger, Jim and Gene saved the life of one of the occupants. On behalf of all members of the Rapid City Fire Department, this certificate is proudly awarded for this uncommon bravery and heroism. If you'd like to give these to them. In addition, I'd like to present you gentlemen with a challenge coin from the Rapid City Fire Department.
Now it's time for general public comment, a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. Tonight we have one general public comment from
Lilius.
Lilius.
Did I get it wrong again?
Lilius Jarding. Is that correct?
That's correct, thank you. I'm Dr. Lilius Jarding. I live in Ward 5 at 418 North 44th Street. And you should have received in your email a week and a half or so ago a press release and a copy of a review of literature on connections between Rapid Creek and other water sources and the implications for gold mining related activity in the Rapid Creek watershed. I did hear back from one of you, and I wanted to just come tonight and make sure that everyone got that information, because I think it's critical for the council to understand that these activities could have direct impacts on all three of Rapid City's water sources. And if you have not read the material yet, please read it. It details the scientific studies that have been done over the years that support that conclusion, and that also support the conclusion that once water from Rapid Creek was to go underground, it could move very quickly as a half a mile to a mile a day into the Madison and Metallusa aquifers. So I would be happy to give this to the secretary in case someone has lost their copy, but I would urge the council to take action and to pass some kind of a resolution on this topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now to non-public hearing items, items 2 through 32. There are no speaker requests on items 2 through 24, so we'll go on to consent items 4 through 24. Motion to approve by Lewis and, yes, go ahead.
Mayor, sorry you couldn't see me. If we could pull item number 13, please.
Okay. Okay, this is, I think there was just a typo here. I think the consent items are 2 through 24. And we had a motion to approve those by Lewis and a second by Laurenti. Richie Nordstrom wants to pull item 13. Are there any others that would like to come off at this time? Okay, then could the motion be to approve the balance then? Mr. Lewis, yes, and the same with the seconder? Okay, motion to approve the consent items with the exception of 13, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13. To authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign an agreement with the Rapid City Collective Impact in support of the Quality of Life Unit Collective Healing Initiative. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may first make a motion to approve.
Second by
Retain the
Solomon.
floor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. If I can turn the floor over to Chief Jageris for a moment to explain a little bit about what the Quality of Life Unit and the collective healing is all about. I think it's a very good program. So whatever the chief needs to explain this to the public on it, I think it's a very good program. So,
okay, Chief Jageris.
Thank you. As all of you are aware, last year our department applied for and received a $750,000 grant from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And we are one of 5 cities in the nation that are a collective healing demonstration site. So one of the components relative to this item on the agenda is that we have partnered with the Rapid City Collective Impact Group to support our Quality of Life unit, which we have recently launched. And they are doing what I would call a boots-on-the-ground social work initiative, primarily focused on our homeless population, as they are the most vulnerable and really the most victimized in our community. So this will This will allow the finance officer to pass through funding to Rapid City Collective Impact, who in turn is helping us, and they have hired a development staff position to work towards their goal of bringing the One Heart campus to reality for our city, which would benefit all of us.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield.
Okay. We have a motion to approve item 13. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us through consent. Now on to non-consent items 25 through 32. We have a speaker request from Rod Pettigrew on item 29.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City staff. Thank you for allowing me to take a few minutes to talk about the fee increases that are on the agenda for tonight. I did send out an email early this morning, and to be honest with you, I'm not the most IT savvy person on the face of the earth, and some of you council members maybe received that email 14 times, and some of you maybe did not receive it, so I apologize for that. And I just want to let you know I'm in support of all the fee increases. There isn't anyone who wakes up in the morning and says, boy, I hope the county raises my property taxes today, or hope the city increases my fees today. Or when you go to the supermarket, you say, well, I hope the cost of milk went up today. None of us want to pay more money for anything. We're all on budgets and basically trying to carve out a living, so hopefully some point in time we can retire. But I do feel the most fair and equitable method for some of the services that the city provides is to have it fee-based on the service provided. And if you use the service, you should pay a fee, and if you don't use the service, you don't pay the fee. Don't know a lot about it. I've made a few phone calls to the city staff to try and get a little bit educated on this, and as I understand it, some of the services that are being addressed in this have not had fees or haven't been raised for 25 years. And I am sure when these rates were set 25 years ago, people were maybe making, I don't know, what were their wages 25 years ago? $6, $7, $8 an hour. Cost of insurance and benefits was low, and there probably was not a lot of demand on city staff. But as we all know, Rapid City is growing. We have good people in our city. I've worked with some of the people building a couple buildings in town, and we got great staff. If you want to have good people, you got to pay them an equitable wage. Benefits have gone up. If you want to do things correctly, you got to have the right equipment, and that all costs money. So I believe that the fees that the community development program has come up with are equitable. The city's not making any money, but it basically covers the cost for the services provided. And I don't think the city should be making any money off of these services, but we should at least cover our basic cost. You know, when you call your accountant with a question, when I call my accountant with a question, I get a bill. When I call my attorney with a question, I get a bill. When you come into my flooring store and buy flooring and want services provided, you're going to get a bill. And I just believe it's only fair that when people use city services, that they should pay for the services that they're using. Thank you.
Thank you. And that'll close public comment on these items. And under ordinances, number 25, first reading, ordinance 6287, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by KW Commercial for Samuelson Development, LLC, for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Office Commercial District for property generally described as being located northwest of the intersection of Mount Rushmore Road and Fox Road. And the recommendation is to continue to the January 27th City Council meeting to be heard in conjunction with the appeal Plan Development Application 18 PD 029. Motion by Lewis and a second by Solomon for that. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 26, first reading, ordinance 6288, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by KT Commercial for Samuelson Development LLC for a rezoning request from General Commercial District to Office Commercial District for property generally described as being located northwest of the intersection of Mount Rushmore Road and Fox Road. Same recommendation as item 25 for this one.
To continue.
Moved by Modrick and second by Drew. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to item 27, first reading, ordinance 6291, an ordinance amendment to update the requirements for private garages by amending sections 17.04.315, 17.08.030J, 17.10.030N, and 17.38.030L of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion to approve by Drew and second by Drury. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 28, first reading, ordinance 6293 regarding supplemental appropriation number 8 for 2018. Motion approved by Lewis, second by Laurenti. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to Legal Finance Committee items. We'll go to Laura Armstrong.
Okay. Item 29, approve resolution number 2018-084, a resolution amending certain fees to be charged in 2019 for various licenses, permits, and applications. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Lewis. We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank the staff, the Parks Department, Fire Department, and Planning Department in particular for going back and providing the justification that we requested. I know I made you do that, and I requested that, and the council agreed, and just a brief justification, because we have to answer the question of why certain fees are being increased, and each one of you provided an explanation for that. So I just wanted to say, sorry we're delayed it a couple of weeks, but I do very much appreciate the justification and the explanation, and that's very helpful. I yield.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I see Vicki joined us. So if you don't mind if I ask our planner a couple of questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Vicki, the majority of these I have no problem with whatsoever, but I did want to ask a couple of things. On the preliminary subdivision plan fee, I remember that coming through years ago, and one of the reasons I believe there wasn't a fee put on that was because they were trying to incentivize some of these smaller plans coming forward. Am I remembering that correct? Because I remember it came from staff that they didn't want to put a fee on it at that time.
Mayor, if I might.
Please, Vicki Fisher.
So many years ago,
Many years
there
ago.
actually used to be what is known as a preliminary plat. Well, there was a layout plat, a preliminary plat, and a final plat. The layout plat, there was no fee for it, and it was conceptual. The preliminary plat was now where we would require the construction plans, which is the development engineering plan application. When we joined the second floor review committee back in the day and came up with a whole new way of platting and created the lot line adjustment plat and the minor plat, it was decided that since we would collect the major fee for the construction plans with a preliminary subdivision plan, that means if a preliminary subdivision plan is required, construction plans are always coming down the pike or they need exceptions. So it was decided that since we'd get the fee with the development engineering plan application, that we wouldn't collect it with the preliminary subdivision plan. In reality, though, the preliminary subdivision plan is the one where we actually sit down, identify all the issues, write a report, do a site inspection, and again, it is a significant amount of time that goes into a property owner's projected development with no direct fee to them for the specific time that staff is putting toward that one effort. So in looking at where we could collect more revenue to justify the time spent on site-specific property owner applications, this is one that we've reinstated from a procedure years ago where we did have an application. In other words, in an effort to be user-friendly, we dropped one of the fees, and now we're bringing it back in order to ensure that we're covering all of the actual time reviewed for a specific project.
Thank you, Vicki. And one of the things that worries me about this is I see so many of these small projects that come forward and then just don't go anywhere. And I'm worried about the guy that wants to come in and maybe subdivide one lot off of his property, and now he's not going to do it, you know, and, or, you know, I mean, there's just a lot of things that I have no problem with this fee if it's on, say, 10 acres or a subdivision that's going to be big enough. But on these smaller projects where somebody comes in and, you know, they pull up a rapid map and they draw a line across it and they say, I want to do this, are they going to have to pay $250?
So when we looked at these, we tried to do an average. We looked at those that are only 1 or 2 lots and those that are potentially 30 to 50 lots. And what you see in that assessment are those at the lighter end, realizing that there would be no justification or no encouragement for someone to speculate. I always call the preliminary subdivision plan the what-if plat. If I were to plat, what would be required? What we know is that there are subdivision improvements that are outstanding. They're not in place today. So we know we have to bring them to Planning Commission and Council. But in our effort to be realistic and very conservative about the amount of time, we are looking at those smaller ones. If we were to truly look at the hours that we do for some of the larger developments that are phased master plan projects, that was just so unrealistic. So we did err on the side of being extremely conservative. And we were looking at those that are from 1 to 5 lots. And that's what you see in that fee assessment.
Still don't like it. Still going to vote against it. But I have one more real quick for you, Vicki, since you're here. I was wondering about the final platting fee. You're going to say the same thing, I'm sure. You're coming in on the low end of this, so the guy that's doing 1 or 2 lots compared to the guy that's doing 100, you know, that it just bothers me that, because I do that quite often, not so much in Pennington County, but in different counties, where we'll come in and we'll do 2 or 3 lots. You know, we'll split a 40 into 4 10s or 2 20s or whatever. And it just bothers me that coming forward, if I'm doing 2 lots, I'm paying the same as the guy that's doing 100. You know what I mean? As the small person, I just think that they're kind of, excuse my language, getting the shaft. So anyway, that's just my comment on it. And I'll let it go because I know this is going to pass. Thank you.
Okay, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. First, if I may also add to the list of people that need to get some kudos is the Public Works Division, and I thank Alderman Solomon for pointing out those that were heavily involved in making the changes. But I also want to point out the Public Works, the Solid Waste Division, and the Water Division change of fees in there. So kudos to that department as well for coming up with the fees. And what I also appreciate, and I'm not seeing it here tonight, and maybe I've missed it here, but the recovery rate. There's nothing in the recovery rates that I'm seeing that are over 100%. So everything is, what, 90% and less. So the recovery effort and on top of that, the effort that's applied to each project that these folks have to do to justify the rates and the change in the fees. I think the departments have put together a good, solid rationale for evidence of why we need to make those adjustments. Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield.
Thank you. Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple questions for Patsy, if I could, please.
Yes.
So, Patsy, I am very supportive of the increase in the TIF fees from $1,000 to $2,500. And maybe just for a little bit of edification on the part of your department, you could tell us what that really takes to go through that process and how much time.
Well, I did include some time estimates in that justification, and it's about 125 hours per application, and that's just if we have one meeting with a preliminary review and one meeting after the final application comes in. So there's a lot of time spent on TIFs.
I think it's an extraordinary amount of time spent on TIFs. I think that TIFs are a good thing, and I appreciate your work, and I hope that maybe in the future that we could get you some help with these increased fees.
Well, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's not just our department that works on TIFs. We have public works staff, we have finance staff, we have the attorney staff. There are a lot of folks that review these applications.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that is important too. This is an expensive process, and so I'm going to support this, but I just wanted to bring out that particular item because I think its time has come. So thank you. I yield.
Okay, item 29. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, item 29, the motion is for approval. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes with 1 no. Item 30, go ahead.
Moving to item 30, a request from Community Health Center of the Black Hills to use excess vision funds allocated to mental health pod for medical record storage facility. I'll make a motion to deny.
Okay, second by Laurenti. Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a question, and maybe I need to go for you for budget, but when it goes back in Vision Fund because it hasn't been used for any given year, then does that sit in Vision Fund and accumulate and drive it forward to the next Vision Fund round? Where do the amounts that don't meet the fund go to?
Let's let our finance officer, Pauline Sumption,
Thank
explain
you.
that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just like in the general fund, if cash isn't spent in the vision fund, it just goes back into the cash balance. It can be used in future years for reallocation to projects. If you remember, we have authorized quite a bit of money from that balance because we haven't used it. Some of it is from projects that came in under budget. Some is just because we haven't programmed it out, but we have budgeted some of that to go towards the Civic Center project. So it can be reallocated as part of the projects moving forward.
So it's a designated reallocation. It doesn't dump it in the general fund. It's there
For the
because
vision
it's
fund.
the vision. Very good. That's what I wanted us to hear. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to deny item 30. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now to community development items, we'll go to Councilwoman Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 31, acknowledge the presentation from Community Development on department programs and development updates. Information item, no action required. Move to acknowledge.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of acknowledging then, say aye.
Aye.
How, just out of curiosity, how does this not end up in the consent? Does anybody know?
I asked that we take a vote on it, and we did approve the acknowledgement, so I'm not really sure. Maybe that moved it into...
Okay. All right, next item then.
Okay. Item 32, a request by KTM Design Construction, Inc. for a Corporation for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1AR, 2AR, and 3AR of Chambers Subdivision Number 2, generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of Twin Elms Drive and Chambers Street. Move to approve with stipulations.
Second by Nordstrom. All in favor of approval of item 32 with stipulations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. On to public hearing items 33 and 34. No speaker requests, so we'll move right on to the consent. 33 and 34. Would anyone like to pull either of these two items off? If not, can we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Laurenti and a second, I think, by Nordstrom. All in favor of approving items 33 and 34, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Non-consent public hearing items. Item 35, a request by KTM Design Solutions, Inc. for SSST LLC and Zanstra Real Estate Holdings for Resolution 2018-086 to reallocate project costs for TID number 65, revision number 1, for property generally described as being located south and west of Elks Country Estates and east of Elkvale Road.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Drury and a second by Roberts. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 36, second reading, ordinance 6284, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Joe Avampato for Avampato Construction Company Incorporated for a rezoning request from general commercial district to office commercial district for property generally described as being located at 2821 West Rapid Street and 410 National Street.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Drew and a second by Lewis. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 37, second reading, ordinance 6292, an ordinance to revise the requirements for townhouses by amending section 17.50.020 and 17.50.030 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion to approve by Lewis, second by Armstrong. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now I need a motion to go into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, subsection 3, to consult with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. And who was that?
Second.
Armstrong makes the motion. Drury, I think, made the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're in executive session. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because we came out with her.
Conversation. My leg.
Can we have a motion to come out of executive session, please?
Already motion to come out of executive session again.
Motion by Scott, second by Laurenti. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're out of executive session. And before we go on to the bill list, there's another important topic that needs to be addressed, and that is at the recent LNI tournament, the City Council slaughtered the County Commission at hand games.
We did.
So it's City Council 1, County Commission 0. Huh?
Last year, okay.
That doesn't count.
It's a tie.
Okay, item number 38, the bill list, will go to Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $90,459,195.61.
Motion to approve by Solomon and a second by Laurenti and Drury. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now Richie. Now Richie. Now Richie.
Motion to adjourn by Richie Nordstrom.
Second.
Second by Drury. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.